Oh my gosh. Do we have an extraordinary show for you today? I am so thrilled and honored to introduce straight from Beirut, Lebanon, George Hayek, who is literally changing the world. This man has started the first vegan hospital on the planet at a time when we are in the midst of a pandemic that, let's forget about the crazy laboratory conspiracy theories. All the scientists have concluded that while we can't say, well, we know 100% for sure because where's the videotape, right? But it is a zoonotic illness that jumped from animals to humans. It first cropped up in a slaughter market. We are suffering globally because of our addiction to eating animals. This is it. Heart disease, cancer, the pandemic, climate change, all of it. And this man has taken his family institution, his family hospital in Beirut, Lebanon, and turned it into a vegan hospital. George Hayek, welcome. Tell us all about it. How'd you do it? Why'd you do it?
Okay, hello, Jane. First of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's really an honor for me to be talking with you and to be able to spread the word all over the world, and maybe inspire other hospital owners or other healthcare institutions to follow our steps for a better world, for our health, for our earthlings, the ones that are sharing our life with, and eventually for our environment, because as you mentioned, well, factory farms and animal agriculture is the leading cause of climate change. So yeah, it's an urgent matter. I think the step that I took for the hospital was the only logical step to take, for the very simple reason. I mean, so many studies and the science actually is in our side. When I mean, the WHO, they classify meat as carcinogenic, when processed meat is group 1A carcinogenic, and red meat 2A carcinogenic. Well, I mean, why would any hospital in the world would offer such carcinogenic food to their patient? I mean, it's illogical and doesn't make sense at all. Whereas it has been proven then that adopting a plant-based diet not only can stop the evolution of certain diseases, but it can also as well reverse certain diseases. So, well, yeah, the only logical approach that I took to the hospital was to remove completely animal products of our menu. As you mentioned in your introduction, the leading cause of death today is heart disease. Heart disease is caused by clogged arteries, and clogged arteries are clogged by, well, food that are high in cholesterol, saturated fat, and trans fatty acid. Not to forget that cholesterol is only and exclusively found in animal products. So yeah, it was the only logical step for me, as well as because I'm an activist. It's been like more than 10 years I'm vegan. I've established Lebanese Vegans on social media, and now it's an NGO. I'm spreading the word about compassion, about justice, about a better way to live. And especially today, we have another source of information. I mean, it's no longer the mainstream media that provides us information. It's the information is one click away. I mean, everyone should have the curiosity to search more, dig more, do some more research, and try to be a better version of ourselves.
Well, wow. You said so much, and you really made a very good opening argument for all hospitals switching to a vegan diet. If you're in the hospital for a heart attack or a stroke, which came about because your arteries were clogged with plaque, plaque comes from cholesterol. Cholesterol only exists in animal products. Why on earth would you wake up after your stent operation that taxpayers essentially have to subsidize too, whether they eat animals or not, and then get served a breakfast of bacon and eggs? It's insanity. And yet, I can tell you right now, here in Los Angeles, supposedly the most progressive city in the United States, arguably, even in the world, a friend of mine was just in the hospital and she had to fight to get substantial vegan food, not just some lettuce thrown on a plate, served to her when she was hospitalized, even though we have a law that we passed here. And I was involved in passing it that says if you're in the hospital or in an institution like a prison, if you're a vegan or if you want a vegan meal, you are legally entitled to a substantial vegan meal. And yet they are ignoring it. What is it with the health industry? Could it be that they realize if everybody got healthy, we're out of business?
Well, you said it, Jane. Absolutely. It's a matter of money and lobbying. We know very well the power of the lobbies, whether it's the animal agriculture lobby or the big pharma. Actually, they kind of work together. So I'm not surprised that they didn't take the step yet, and they are still struggling to inject animal food in patients' plates. I mean, this is completely, it doesn't make sense at all. As you mentioned as well, the pandemic that we're living today that has caused millions of deaths so far, and so many countries and economies to shut down. Well, what have we done so far? I mean, well, it's great to wash our hands. It's great to take social distancing and wear masks. Lockdowns, everything. Those are extremely good measures in order to slow the spread of the pandemic. But what have we done? What are the measures that we're taking to prevent the next pandemic? Well, are we offering some food that are the breeding grounds of pandemics to our patients? This is completely immoral and unethical. So whether it's the COVID today, before was the SARS, the MERS, HIV, avian flu, swine flu, well, they all came from animals. And as the CDC stated, that 3 out of 4 new or emerging infection in a human come from animal. Well, what are we supposed to do in order for us to prevent 75% of the risk of infection? I mean, if 75% of the risk of infections come from animal, shouldn't we leave animals alone, stop exploiting them, whether for food or for clothing or for any other product that is? So I mean, whether it's the WHO stating that as long as we eat animals, there will still be some risk of infection, or stating meat as carcinogenic, same group as tobacco, or the CDC stating that 3 out of 4 new emerging diseases come from animals. What are the measures that we are taking to prevent the next pandemic? I really don't know. It's really absurd how governments and basically everyone is turning a blind eye to the elephant in the room. It's excellent to take measures to slow the spread of the pandemic, but nothing has been done to prevent the next one. This is really a shame. So I really think that change come from within. As myself, I am fortunate enough to have a family business, a family hospital. So I implied what I preach, whether on a personal level or through Lebanese Vegans, to apply it in my business, in my line of business. And I really urge everyone to do the same in his own business, whether it's a hospital or a supermarket or anything. Just remove the sources of pandemic, remove the sources of heart disease, remove the sources of colon cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, hypertension. Well, hospitals are full of patients suffering of what, Jane? They are suffering from diseases that are caused by eating animal products. I mean, no one suffered from clogged artery after eating hummus, or a decent salad, or some good Lebanese vegan food by default. I mean, so yeah, if I look around, whether it's my hospital or the hospital all over the world, they are filled with patients suffering from cancer, from heart disease, from hypertension, from diabetes. So yeah, the only logical step is that all hospital, not only should they offer options like plant-based options, they should omit completely carcinogenic food from their meal. I mean, would it make sense for them to offer like cigarettes in their premises? Cigarettes is carcinogenic. It has been classified in the same group as red meat, as, excuse me, processed meat, and meat in general has been classified not by me, not by Lebanese Vegan, not by Hack Hospital, not by you, Jane, but by the WHO.
Again, man, you are making the great arguments that need to be made globally. This conversation should be happening on major television networks in the United States, Europe, and all around the world. But look at the advertisers. Why do you think they don't talk about it? Meat, dairy, pharmaceuticals. We all know the pharmaceutical industry would collapse if people started eating plant-based. They wouldn't need the cholesterol lowering because there's no cholesterol in plants. They wouldn't need the erectile dysfunction pills, which supposedly every guy over 50 now is in the Western world. How sad. And yet,
yes, Jane, I would add something to you.
Sure,
if you may, concerning the point that you just raised.
Yeah,
if a certain man take this blue pill in order to make it work, this specific guy should go to any hospital near him and check his arteries, because if one organ is not functioning well and is not receiving enough blood flow, so this means that this guy probably has other areas where he should check, and mainly his heart. It could be a very serious indication to every person taking a blue pill today.
Well, yes, absolutely. As it's been explained to me, and I'm no doctor, but doctors have said that it's systemic. When the vessels in your body start getting clogged, they don't just get clogged to your heart, which is, prior to COVID, the leading killer. 1 out of every 4 people dies of heart disease. That's not me saying it. That's the American Heart Association. And so now you have COVID killing more than 500,000 people in America. Then you have heart disease, which was killing huge numbers of people and still is. Then you have cancer, which also processed meat is cancer causing, red meat likely carcinogen. What's it going to take for people to wake up and realize that what they think is their right, is not just a personal choice. When you've got a pandemic that's killing people left and right, it's no longer a personal choice any more than driving and racing down the freeway in the wrong direction is a personal choice. Everything's a personal choice, but it's not just a personal choice. The ramifications are enormous. Now we do have, because there are ways to get around mainstream media. And that's why I always thank Voice America Radio and our executive producer, Tacey Trump, and Andrew in the control room for letting us do this show and having this conversation. And every person who hears it has the power to change with every decision they make throughout the course of the day, choosing to eat something healthy for them, better for the planet, better for the animals. That choice is growing exponentially. And we just had a movie called Seaspiracy that just rocked the world on Netflix, showing how the fishing industry is destroying the oceans, and that when the oceans die, we're, as a human species, going to very likely die out too. We can't survive with a dead ocean. So I think people are waking up. Let me ask you a couple of questions. First, we've got so many people on hold. My gosh, my apologies, people. I got so wrapped up with George's amazing, powerful opening statement. Let's go to Steve on hold. Your question or thoughts, Steve?
I think it's great. Thanks a lot, Jane. You're doing a great job. And Mr. Hayek, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you really want to heal people. I agree what the tobacco, what you're saying about tobacco. We need a Surgeon General's warning like we have with cigarettes. Is there any progress on that?
Well, let me say, because I'm here in the United States, and what George is doing is extraordinary in Beirut, Lebanon. I hope it spreads throughout the world. I really do. We're going to talk about that. But unfortunately, government is kind of held hostage by the meat and dairy and pharmaceutical industry. The head of the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, is a dairy industry trade person. He's pushing dairy. I mean, that was his business. And he served in the Obama administration. Then he became the head of a dairy trade group. And now he's back as the head of the USDA, Tom Vilsack. That's not promising. They talk about the Paris Climate Accords, but they're not addressing animal agriculture. So unfortunately, our government has been co-opted by the meat and dairy and pharmaceutical industry. This is one reason why I really fight to support something called the Agriculture Fairness Alliance, which fights to get lobbyists in the halls of Congress to push for ending subsidies to big ag and animal ag and giving subsidies to farmers who want to transition out of animal agriculture. Let's go to Patty. Patty, you're on hold. Your question or thought?
Hey, Jane. First, I want to say thank you so much for all that you guys are doing. These are like my people, and I so appreciate you guys. I just wanted to share a personal story. So I moved my father down here about 2.5 years ago in Florida to help my mother take care of him. He was basically almost in stage 5 renal failure. So as a family, we were asked just last year during the pandemic to start attending diabetic conferences and what we need to do for dialysis treatment, because we were going to be deciding whether he's going to be doing it at home or at a center. So as a family, we had to go to start training, right? So we started doing it online, and the first thing the nurse asks everyone that's on the Zoom call and on the meetings is, okay, everybody here kind of sort of raise your hand, let me know in a way if you all have dairy in your life. Basically any kind of cheese, this includes yogurt, this includes ice cream. And of course, almost everyone answered except for my father and I believe one other person. My father did not raise his hand. And she said, well, I just want you to know that the 1 or 2 people that have not raised their hand are basically that much more ahead, because the first thing that we ask, although we cannot force you, the first thing that we ask when you are going to be considering dialysis and going to be on dialysis is erase all the dairy from your life. So from today, starting today, you are no longer dairy consumers. And I asked her, why isn't this something that they do or should be doing when we are infants, toddlers, and into our later years, and instead waiting for it to be practically almost the last nail in our coffin? If we are being told to take dairy out of our lives when we are almost basically on our last leg of closer to death, why aren't we doing this sooner? And she couldn't answer it, but she said basically that my father and the one other person was so lucky, because not only do most people die much sooner than they should while on dialysis, but she feels very sad for the seniors, because they have been so brainwashed to think that yogurt especially is basically a healthier meal substitute for them. So that in itself speaks volumes as to how dairy is completely toxic. Any breast milk from any other species, basically, we should be leaving it at infancy, but more so, there you go. It's the one time that the medical industry says to us, hey, get off the dairy because you're on your last leg, getting ready to do dialysis, and you should no longer have any type of dairy product in your life.
Well, you made some incredible points. I want to discuss all of this with George. We're going to take one more caller. We've got a lot of callers. People are fascinated with this subject, and then we're going to go to break, but we're going to discuss how George feels the medical community needs to start addressing this issue. Sarah, your question or thought? Sarah.
Oh, hi. Oh, my gosh. I'm so glad you let me come on. Listen, here's my idea. There is this Dr. Milton Mills. Get him and all the other vegan doctors, Dr. Neil Barnard, and get the coalition together, and you get all the money together, and you just start taking over hospitals. And so all of the vegan doctors, they take over one hospital, and then everybody goes there and gets cured, and then they see, oh, wow, okay, this works. And then that way you take them down little by little, and then it's a domino effect. But I just think it's a good idea, because these doctors are all in different places, and I know they don't want to move, but I still think we need a hospital with all vegan doctors, and that way they can actually heal their patients.
Sarah, you've raised so many points. Okay, we've just raised like a million points we need to discuss. We're going to take a short break on Voice America Radio, but we're going to stay live on Facebook. Well, we're live on Facebook. We once again are talking to George Hayek, who is the head of the first vegan hospital. He is live in Beirut, Lebanon. We are talking to him. We are so thrilled. We really want this to spread, but so many questions raised. Getting back to Patty's point, why is it that these institutions seem to know, and yet I can go into the hospital with a sprained finger and a doctor will try to make it about the fact that I'm vegan. And I say, well, what about all the people on the gurneys out there who look like they're on death's door? They're not vegan. Do you make it about the fact that they eat meat? The institutional bias. Can you address that, George?
Okay, listen, Jane, there's one important point I would like to raise today with you is that we live in a world where we are excellent in dealing or in treating like symptoms. Okay, so I mean, if you have a headache, you'll take a painkiller. But did you ever like search why do you have a headache in the first place? You visit the hospital because you have some artery that are clogged and you need to open up with the cardiologist. This cardiologist will do his job and open up your artery. He's going to send you back home with some medication and that's it. He will not tackle like the source of the problem. I think it's about time for us and for everyone to tackle the source of the problem, not just treat symptoms. I mean, it's excellent to treat the symptom, but the problem itself, the source of the problem, hasn't been tackled. So it's well about time for all institutions, healthcare institutions, hospitals, not just to like, yeah.
We're coming back right now.
You are listening to Jane Unchained. To reach the show today, call in to 1-866-472-5795. That's 1-866-472-5795. You may also send an email in to janeunchainednews@gmail.com. Now back to the show.
We are so delighted here at janeunchained.com and Voice America Radio to be talking to George Hayek. He is live from Beirut, Lebanon, where he has opened. It's a family hospital that's existed for quite a while, but he has transitioned it and turned it into a vegan hospital where all the patients get vegan meals when they get out of surgery, when they're admitted. So let me ask you this crucial question, because everybody seems to be saying, all our callers, hey, why don't other hospitals do this? How did you do it? How did you transition? Are all your doctors vegan? Did you get some pushback? Because I would guess some people would be like, how dare you make me do this? I'm not. How did you
You are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct, Jane. I won't lie to you, I had some opposition, even within the hospital, even within some of the doctors. But as you know, the majority of the doctors are meat eaters and dairy drinkers. So in order for them to acknowledge this issue, it was like a bit frustrating for them. But what I did as a manager of the hospital is that I didn't do it like overnight. I decided to undergo like a transition phase. It took like almost a year to reach to what we reach today, to remove completely animal products from our plates. What we did during this transition phase is that with Lebanese Vegans, we've conducted several seminars, conferences, training regarding our medical staff, nursing staff, and management administration as well, so that they will be prepared to our final transition. We were trying to spread awareness, education on why we are switching our hospital into offering only plant-based meal. Those training sessions were extremely helpful because it turned a lot of people's opinion on the matter. Once you educate more, you are sure to receive more positive feedback on the matter. And especially our dietitian is vegan, and she's working hard every day with our kitchen to provide our patients with the best well-balanced meals, that covers all the nutrient that ones have should take without all the toxins, because as you know very well, animal-based products are full of cholesterol. It's the only source of cholesterol, animal products, full of saturated fat, full of trans fatty acids, not just, but they are full of antibiotic and growth hormones. Why is that? Because they are all confined all together, and if one animal is sick, all the animals are sick. This is why they are taking systematic injections of antibiotics. So at the end, we are eating nasty stuff. If we continue the way we continue today, in the near future, we will be facing an extremely difficult situation where, like, a normal seasonal flu won't be able to be cured by a normal antibiotic. Superbugs are emerging, and it's really not looking good for humanity. I mean, so yeah, I had some opposition at the hospital, but after this year of transitioning, of training, of education, of spreading awareness, I got the majority backing me up, supporting me, and they are okay with what I'm doing. Although not all of my doctors are vegan, I'm still working on that, but I'm getting there slowly but surely.
Well, this is extraordinary. Now, my question to you is, how do we spread this to the rest of the world? First of all, I would like to suggest that you do commission a documentary. Just have somebody follow around with a camera and document the stuff that comes up. And I think that documentary, which doesn't have to be something that costs millions of dollars, Jane Unchained, we're a 501c3. We did a documentary called Countdown to Year Zero, which follows the work of Dr. Silas Rao, a systems analyst. If this is on Amazon Prime Video, you can watch it, Countdown to Year Zero. It follows the work of a systems analyst and engineer who was instrumental in the development of the internet. And he basically says we have to transition to a global plant-based world by 2026, or we're going to have an ecological collapse. Absolutely. And so we did this very cheaply. I mean, we had a Canon camera. I followed him to Costa Rica, where he showed us a farm that was a cattle ranch that was regenerated into a forest, which is what he says we have to do all over the world, because trees absorb carbon. Carbon's what heats the earth. We've destroyed all the trees for cattle grazing and for growing crops to feed to farm animals who are eating a huge percentage of the food. And so that's why our earth is heating up. We need to reforest. And it really wasn't that big a deal. You know, these cameras now, a lot of the stuff we shot on our phone.
Of course.
Cameras,
yeah, Jane, I think it's a great idea. If we can conduct like a documentary on how we're doing it at our hospital, maybe this documentary can inspire others to follow maybe some guidelines on how to do things. But I think it's more of a will to take this approach more than anything else. I mean, the information is out there. People already know that zoonotic diseases are responsible for 75% of all our infection diseases. Same goes to the WHO. People know that. But I think the addiction to meat and dairy is so real. I think it's the biggest drug ever. I mean, it's the real addiction we're talking here. It's unfortunate.
I just want to say one thing. I think if hospitals saw how it happened and saw, like, and if you did like an update with the training program that you gave the skeptical doctors, and you presented it, it doesn't have to be staged. You're doing an update. You do here's a presentation again, and you know, even showed what I'm curious, what were the resistances of the doctors? Why did the doctors say? Why did some of the doctors? I don't want to get you in trouble. I understand you're working with people you don't want to, but what was the essential argument against it? Leaving personality.
Yeah. The problem is that some of the answers that I got were really inappropriate. I mean, some of the doctors, well, they just told me, you know what, already the people that comes to the hospital, they're already sick and they're suffering. So the last thing that they can enjoy is a good steak or a good meal. So it was like outrageous for me to listen to such argument from a doctor who is supposed to heal patients. I mean, so yeah, I had some of those nasty comments, but throughout the education, throughout spreading the truth, basically, there weren't much of resistance because the truth is in our side. So yeah.
So wait a second. So you already hit another great point, because people think this is a sacrifice. The best tasting food in the world is vegan. I mean,
Absolutely.
I love food. And at JaneUnchained.com, we post a daily recipe with a video. And in the 4.5 years we've been doing it, we've never repeated a recipe. We have lasagna. Right now, we just did a vegan lasagna, traditional Indian snack, veganized, as well as turning a stir fry into a superfood stir fry. Tons of just incredible dishes.
Absolutely, Jane. It has been quite an enjoyable journey for me and my fiance. Every day we're eating something new. We discovered new taste buds. I mean, we were used to eat the same old thing every day: chicken, meat, chicken every day. So now we discovered a whole new era of new taste buds that we didn't even thought about, that we might enjoy such kind of food mixed together. And it's challenging to veganize some already existing meat dish so that we can show everyone that, well, we can eat very well, extremely delicious meals without having flesh on our plate. As you know, the flesh doesn't have any taste. It's how you marinate the flesh, it's how you spice it up. So you just replace the flesh with some mushroom or some tofu or some soy chunks, and you're good to go.
Now, let me ask you, what has the reaction been of the doctors who were hesitant, saying, well, they deserve their last meal to be a steak or whatever they said, and the patients? I mean, look, hospital food is not renowned for being tasty. I can't tell you how many times I've been to the hospital over the course of my life where I see people who are hospitalized. I've never spent a night in a hospital my whole life, but I see people who are hospitalized and their tray is right there. They're not touching any of that food. It looks like, you want some? No, thanks. I'll pass. Yeah. It's just horrible. It's the way it's served in those plastic trays is not appetizing, and the food isn't good. So the irony is we're saying, well, we're going to give people some tasty. Okay, I won't even go there. But my question is, what are you making? Are the dishes delicious? Are the patients who are in your hospital liking them? And are the doctors trying them? And are they liking them? That's a lot of questions.
Yeah, of course, Jane. Well, listen, here in Lebanon, we have a big variety of dishes and meals. We at the hospital and with my fiancée Vanessa, which she is handling Lebanese Vegans food on Instagram, where she shares so many delicious vegan recipes. We helped our kitchen staff and management to undergo this transition. So we veganize almost all our delicious dishes. We just omit the meat and we replace it with the mushroom or with some tofu or soy chunks. And there you go. You have a delicious vegan food. So it wasn't like really difficult.
I got to jump in and tell you, Alex says, Hayek Hospital has such good food that we go there to eat at the cafeteria, even when we don't need to visit a hospital.
There you go.
That is,
have your answer. Thank you, Seb.
Okay. Anybody, that is the best. You should put that in a plaque and put it on the, I'm telling you, because nobody, well, maybe some people like to go to hospitals. It's not something I enjoy doing. I really do it because it's an obligation. Well, if somebody I care about is sick. But when you're telling me the food is so good that people are going to your hospital just to eat lunch, like it's a restaurant, that definitely get that and put that up on some kind of plaque. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think I will. You know why, Jane? I stress on the food to be like really good tasting, because it's not just I'm running the hospital. I'm just doing this transition for health reasons, which is the major criteria for the hospital. But as a vegan activist, well, I do it as well for the animals. And my mission at the hospital when offering vegan plant-based food is to show people and patients and visitors and doctors that, listen, guys, don't worry if we're going to omit animal products. You're going to be having delicious vegan food, and you won't miss a thing. You just have to try it once, and there you go. You're going to be hooked. So this is why
I just want to jump in because so many people are loving this. Steve Rock and Roll Wood says, absolutely every meal on earth has a vegan alternative. I am totally hearting this guy. Please provide a link so we can follow him and perhaps donate. And other people are asking for information. How do they get in touch with you? How do they become part of this movement? Is there a I mean, this is a private hospital. So I don't think it's a nonprofit, correct me if I'm wrong, but how do people get involved? Because we need to spread what you're doing, needs to spread around the world. That's why it hit me while you were talking that a documentary doesn't have to be something that takes 7 years. You know, I turned this one around in basically less than a year because I'm in the news business and I have a short attention span. If I can't do it quickly, it doesn't have to be an hour either. You could do a half an hour documentary. When I was a cub reporter working in Philadelphia back in 1981, they would make me do a 20-minute story once a month. I had 1 day to shoot, 1 day to write it, and 1 day to edit. In 3 days, at the end of the third day, we had to put out a story, a 20-minute mini doc.
Maybe you'll be able to help me with this, maybe.
Well, I'm in LA, you're in Beirut, but I'm sure you have great videographers.
We do have, of course.
Just get people to start following you. Nobody wants a vanity piece. Include all the zoom, interview the doctors who were resisted and who may have changed, hopefully, and show the food being made. You don't, one thing I've learned, and obviously I don't know if this is off topic, but one thing I've learned about documentaries or any kind of shooting too much is as bad as shooting too little. Once you get it, you get it. You don't need to shoot 5 million meals. You shoot maybe a week's worth of meals, different types of meals, the people eating them, interview the patients, interview the doctors, and be transparent. Some of the doctors who didn't like it, and even include some doctors who say, because there's always that person. No matter what you do, you could serve them the most incredible food, and they're like, meh, because you've told them it's vegan, and it's a point of pride that they're not going to like it. I speak as a recovering alcoholic, just celebrated 26 years sober. I didn't like things when I was in my disease of alcoholism that didn't involve. I wanted to go to Broadway plays because you could have a drink at intermission. I didn't want to go to the movies because there wasn't any drinking involved. Yeah, it's a mindset. There will always be those people. We embrace them with love and say, when you're ready, but I think you could shoot this, get 3 videographers, you could get them, just run around, shoot it all. And then I could certainly help you, find a great editor. Vegan hospital. Oh my God, who wouldn't watch that? We've got Paige on hold. Let's grab the caller. Paige, what is your question or thought?
Hi, yes, thank you so much. This is incredible. I'm thinking about how, 2 things. First of all, Georges, I'm curious about what your turning point was. How was it that you saw the light and knew that you could then make this change there at your hospital? I'm thinking of here in the United States that the sanctions and the governmental interference with hospitals is probably different. However, and also being the owner of your hospital makes a huge impact. It makes me think about what the caller Sarah was saying. Perhaps some doctors could open a new hospital that's a brand new hospital that's 100% plant-based here in the United States. Maybe other. I know that sounds like so easy to do, but I guess my question comes to you, George. Is you're so inspirational. What was the turning point for you?
Good question.
That's it.
Yeah. What was the turning point? Very important question.
Thank you, Paige, for your question. The turning point was, first of all, I turned vegan like 10 years ago. It happened one day. I was browsing my Facebook, and an annoying vegan friend who I used to consider annoying shared footage of a slaughtered cow in an abattoir. I really felt annoyed by this person. Why would he even annoy me and put such horror videos on my newsfeed? The same day I came back to my house. I have 4 dogs. I started cuddling them, and then I realized that, well, there's no difference between my dog and the piece of steak that I was eating. This was the turning point for me to turn vegan. And then I started doing my own research on that matter, and then I realized that we breed more than 80 billion land animals and 2.7 trillion sea animals every year, not for necessity, not to thrive or survive, just for the taste of it. Which is completely, that doesn't make sense. And then with my research, I found out that animal agriculture was the leading cause of rainforest deforestation, water depletion, ocean dead zones, you name it. And then with my research, I found out that the CDC stated that 75% of our infectious diseases come from animals, naming MERS, SARS, swine flu, avian flu, HIV, Ebola. So, and then came up the WHO classifying meat as carcinogenic. So all those were for me like turning points to turn the hospital into an institution that doesn't serve the same food that made our patient enter the hospital in the first place.
Well, I have to say, Ida Kuri says fundhope.com campaign. So there is the Lebanese Vegan Center, the Lebanese.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell us about
Yes,
the
I'm going to
animal
tell you all
rights
about
and
it.
the vegan movement in Lebanon, because this is a global movement. People
Yeah.
like to say, oh, this is some sort of elitist movement, and it's for people who live in Brooklyn and Venice, California. I happen to live right near Venice, California, but in Mexico City, there are more than 80 vegan restaurants.
Yeah.
Berlin is like a vegan mecca. England's becoming a vegan mecca. Costa Rica, it's all over the world. I don't want to leave anybody out. I was in Taiwan, and it's a incredible
Amazing.
vegan community. What's happening in Lebanon?
Okay, so what happened is that after the unfortunate explosion in Beirut on the 4th of August, as you probably have heard, more than 200 casualties and more than 2,000 people were injured and left homeless. Right after this unfortunate blast, Seb, Alex, and I and many Lebanese activists joined forces in order to create like a relief food program to all those who got hurt from the blast. And believe me, it was like really a big number of people who were really in need of any kind of help, including food. So we started by joining our forces all together, and then we came into a conclusion that this like relief program shouldn't be like only for a few months, but we should try to keep it like a whole year thing. This is when we opted to have a center in Beirut. And this center, with the help of many supporters and many people who have already donated within the link that you just mentioned, we really received a lot of donations. And thanks to those donations, we were able to have this center, this hub. And what we did with this hub is we created a space for all vegans and non-vegans to come over, pass by. We have a vegan cafe. Let me tell you that maybe it's a unique concept, I don't know, but the vegan cafe is absolutely completely free for everyone. So everyone can come over with his family, open up the menu, and order some vegan meals for free. Of course, we have a donation box if this person would like to donate or not. It's up to him, but it's completely free. So a free vegan cafe in the center. And we have a vegan boutique. What we are trying to do is to gather all our vegan businesses in Lebanon, the vegan ones who are interested to have a centralized boutique in Lebanon, and what we did is that we lowered our prices compared to other non-vegan grocery stores, because as you know, the grocery stores, with their mission is to make money, and they like find out that a vegan product could be profitable, and now it's trending, so why not like put a high profit on them? And this is why the majority of people think that vegan products are so expensive. So what we do in our center, in our hub, is in the boutique, we offer the same products, but with much less profit, just to cover our cost. And there you go. You have a vegan product that doesn't have a bad reputation of being expensive. Another thing at the hub, we have a working space area for all the students or any businessman who would like to come over, have a peaceful stay, open up his laptop and work on his business. Same to students, as well as we have a big auditorium where we already hosted our first event. Seb Alex was our first animal rights activist who presented his lecture on that matter. And we have a screening area where we can screen documentaries. And so we have so many ideas to spread veganism to Lebanon and abroad and make it accessible to everyone.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, wow.
And there's one thing I would like to add.
Okay.
The Vegan Food Relief Program, we're doing this as a weekly basis every Thursday. We cook some delicious plant-based meals, and we distribute it to the less fortunate people who are really in need, who doesn't have any even shelter. They're really homeless. So we're doing this on a weekly basis every Thursday. There's no question about it.
Oh my gosh. This is so inspiring. And I think when an idea's time has come, a lot of people start thinking in the same direction. So just coincidentally, first of all, Dr. Silas Rao, who we profile here on Countdown to Year Zero, is working with temples to produce vegan food to give to people who are hungry. Then you have Maggie Baird, who has Support and Feed. She and her family, her daughter Billie Eilish and her son Phineas, are a vegan family, and she created this campaign where people donate to Support and Feed. Support and Feed gives money to vegan restaurants. Vegan restaurants make the food, and they deliver the food. We just did a whole season on New Day, New Chef on Support and Feed. So you can see that on Amazon's Prime Video. And then we just did, coincidentally, on Jane Unchained, I saw somebody going live with a vegan fridge that they've set up in New York City. And these are popping up all over the country.
Beautiful.
Where just a refrigerator in a community center is put in there, and everybody puts in vegan food, and anybody can come and take it. And you know what the incredible thing is? Nobody's reported people taking advantage of it, like somebody coming in and just clearing the whole thing out or reselling the food, or everybody, even those who are struggling, will just take an appropriate amount. And it's this idea. There was one criticism of somebody saying, yeah, you know, you can't, I could find it even. But the point is that some people feel that meat and dairy have to be, here it is. Jason said, in a hypothetical world of plant-based, we would outconsume growth, time, and freshness if having to be shipped around the world. Then there's embargoes, harvesting seasons, natural disasters. Oh, well, I guess there's bread and pasta. Healthy not. Now, let me counteract that. First of all, animals are eating the majority of the food we produce in the world. They are also using the majority of the ice-free land, either directly as cattle grazing or the food that's grown to feed 80 billion animals. We're only 7.8 billion humans. What we say is we could live in a world of natural abundance if we stop mass producing animals who just eat so much food. There is plenty of food to feed all people. We're not actually even 9 billion people. That's why Bill Gates recently said we're going to have to switch, rich nations is what he said, to synthetic meat. I believe we all need to switch to synthetic meat, meaning it's his nerdy way of saying we need to go plant-based. But I do applaud the fact that he said that, and he's no dummy. He's saying
of course he
animal
knows
agriculture is not sustainable. And of course, the mainstream media mocked him for saying that. So,
Listen, Jane,
yes.
there's something we should highlight on, is that we are plumbing the resources of our world, and we are busy searching for a life outer space. You know, it's really absurd. We are putting all our money and our efforts into finding some place to live elsewhere, where we could have lived extremely well in our planet. The only thing is that we should take care of it. As you mentioned, we weirdly enough have enough food to feed more than 80 billion land animals every year, so that a few privileged would have a piece of steak on their dinner table, when the majority of people and the people that are selling their grains are starving or dying from hunger. Today we have 7.6 billion, the population of the world. More than 1 billion are hungry. So how come we have enough food to feed 80 billion land animals, and we do not have enough food to feed those 1 billion hungry and starving people? So this is why I consider that eating meat is a crime to the animals, as well as it's a crime towards a human being. And then again, mentioning the personal choice argument, well, I'm really sorry, but it's not a personal choice to take someone else's life. It's not a personal choice to create pandemics. It's not a personal choice to plumb the resources of our planet. It's not a personal choice well, you name it. You name it.
Well, I have to say, you're one of the most compelling spokespeople for our movement that I've come across lately. I want you to do that documentary, because I want
I
you
will,
to
I
talk
promise.
in it and include all these arguments. What you just said, it's not a personal choice to start a pandemic. It's not a personal choice to take the life of another being. I was a crime reporter for decades. What's the definition of homicide? The unnecessary taking of another life, not in self-defense.
Absolutely.
Now,
When it's completely unnecessary, then this is the crime by itself. When eating meat today is not for survival, so this is a crime by definition. We are just taking a life because we like the taste of it.
Now, let me say this. I do deal a lot with Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, more than 12,000 medical professionals, doctors, nutritionists here in the United States who are all vegan. And I don't know if you work with them, but I would love to introduce you to them, because you guys are.
Actually, I would love to connect with them. They were one of my sources of inspiration, Dr. Neil Bernard and all his team. They're really inspirational, the team and doctors and physicians. Of course, they had some major impact to the decision that I made, and for me to turn vegan and to take the health aspect of veganism seriously, and to open up my eyes on all those aspects. So I would love to connect with them and maybe collaborate, and maybe in this way we would be able to spread the message even further.
Yes, and they run the Barnard Medical Center in Washington, which is vegan and will offer consultations to anybody. They take all sorts of insurance. And I've referred several people who've had issues, say, call Barnard Medical Center, and they will figure out a doctor who's vegan in your area that takes your insurance, and at the very least do a teleconference. One of the issues is to find vegan doctors. I mean, I know this. I don't go to the doctor very often. Knock on Formica or whatever passes for wood these days. But I would love to have a vegan doctor. So also training more vegan doctors, or vegan.
You know, one thing concerning this issue that you are raising, one thing that I figured during the transition period at the hospital is that the majority of doctors, not only in my hospital but everywhere, they lack a lot of information regarding nutrition. I mean, they are really like disconnected from nutrition, whereas the sources of the diseases that they are treating the patient with come from what they're eating, you know. So this is what I really realized, that doctors should be the first audience to be educated on the matter, and to stop themselves consuming disease and stop promoting disease.
You're absolutely right. Doctors get very little training in nutrition. They really don't know a lot, and what they are taught is often extremely biased. We are out of time, but oh my gosh, I could talk to you all day. This has been so exciting. You give me hope for our world. I would love to stay connected. I will introduce you to the PCRM folks. And I just want to say congratulations. Let's spread this. And please take that idea of a documentary seriously, because this is what's needed, and the clock is ticking, and you're showing the template. By showing the template of how you did it, you could show other hospitals how they can do it, and that the food is great, and that the customers, the patients, are going to love the food. So thank you, George Hayek, talking to us live from Beirut, Lebanon.
Jane, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure for me to be talking to you. I love the way you undergo your discussions. So it was really a pleasant interview, and I really hope we would be able to connect in the future. And why not maybe get in touch like really soon.
I would love that. Thank you so much. And we will talk to you soon. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.